Pablo Carro, un placer. What a great privilege to have you on my show. Been
Oh,
using
man.
Playtomic for God knows how long. Definitely, it's part of my zeitgeist, one of my most popular apps on my phone. In your own words, Pablo, ¿quién es? Who are you? ¿Quién eres?
I'm a paddle player. I've become recently a dad. I would say I'm
Congratulations.
first. Yeah, thanks, man. I would say I'm a dad first, and then secondly, um, I'm a paddle player maybe, or and third, a businessman, whatever you wanna call it, but paddle lover for sure. And I think this conversation is gonna be around that topic. And thanks for the invite, man. I mean, it's very interesting what we've already
Let's start.
spoken. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll start with your intro into paddle itself, Pablo. I mean, obviously, thinking you have a Spanish background might have helped. How did you get into paddle in the first? What was the first moment you got on, saw a paddle court, and played some paddle?
Well, 1995, I was playing tennis at a tennis club, and they built two paddle courts, this hard surface style, Spanish style, all times.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried it. And I don't think I started to play very actively, but since 1999 or 2000, I let's say I migrated to paddle, and I'm still there. Let's say,
You
and
certainly are.
that's it. Yeah, I've 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 also played tennis for a while, but I think 90% of my racket sports activity, 95% of my racket sports activity has been dedicated to paddle since that moment, and then it became my profession. So at the end, I left tennis, and my dad would be very sad about that because he was a tennis lover, the kind of guys that they were waking up at 3 a.m. for watching Rafa Nadal in Australian Open, um, definitely and obsessed with tennis. So he didn't like padel, but I'm absolutely convinced that if he was alive, he would be proud of what padel as an industry has become, and why padel could be also an example for the tennis industry in the sense of transforming the industry, right, and becoming more attractive for the new users and new generations.
Well, back in July, we heard Djokovic talking about how tennis is under threat. So not the only person worrying about the future of tennis.
Yes, I was thinking about that specific quote from Djokovic. I didn't want to mention it, but I mean, it is true. I mean, what the tennis guys are realizing, including the top players or the legends like Djokovic, is that we have an industry there, massive industry, tennis, that really needs to be transformed, and more adapted to new generations, and being much more capable to compete with other types of entertainment. I wouldn't say only paddle or pickleball. I mean, we're not talking about just paddle and pickleball as the main threats in that sense to tennis. I mean, it's the way that the society has been built, and the way that we want to consume in a very fast way, and we want to start, let's say, mastering an activity since day one, and we want to consume very rapidly. And tennis, which is a sport that I love, as I said, uh, needs to be transformed in that sense and more digitized, um, more, I mean, more adapted to, let's say, open environments and open communities, and more, I mean, making it easier for the people that travels constantly. I mean, facilitating the entry of new players. It's difficult because itself the sport is very technical, let's say, and it demands a huge amount of time to become an advanced player, or but they have to transform the business, and I think they can learn a lot from the paddle.
Well, for sure, it's a difficult sport, but I like your word, Pablo, of saying it's entertainment. And it makes me think that the competition is actually whether you go to the cinema with friends or you go play a sport and have fun. Because even if you're not good at paddle, you have fun. So the entertainment
Absolutely.
component is so key.
Yeah.
So let's just, we're going to get into a little bit of that, a little bit more, just but talking more about Pablo and his paddle tennis. You
Yeah.
play on the right. Your level on Playtomic is 5.1. Congratulations. Always good to keep that
Thank
going.
you.
How do you describe your play? If you were an animal, how would you describe the paddle player that is Pablo Carro?
I've been constantly criticized by my paddle style.
Uh-oh.
No, the thing is that I'm so tall. I'm so tall. I mean, I can say I'm fast because I'm thin, so I have kind of this. I can move fast, but I'm not aggressive enough. I'm not aggressive enough. I should be much more offensive. As
Which
I've
is
been
why you play on
playing,
the right. Which is why you play on the right.
well, I'm playing right because I'm left-handed.
Oh,
So
well, sort of though.
as
Of
far as
course.
I'm left-handed, I need to be forced to play there.
Of
And
course.
it's funny because at the very beginning, I didn't like to play on the right side, but I'm a left-handed, and one Argentinian coach that I had at the beginning said, "No, no, man, if you are left-handed, you are forced to play on the right." And then I transformed my paddle a bit because I was more aggressive playing on the left as a left-handed because you know the bandeja and the víbora, you have more space for because if you play from here and you cross the ball, I mean it's you have more meters to put the
More
ball on the
line,
court.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, more angle. And but I transform my play and I become a much more defensive player, knowing that I'm so tall and quite fast. I should be much more offensive and much more um, aggressive, let's say.
Hmm. Well, it sounds like you're a giraffe that needs to be more like a lion.
Yeah,
Something like that.
that's a great description.
All right. Well, that's funny. Anyway, and you obviously follow everything's going on in paddle in the professional world. Let's talk about the origin of Playtomic, because you're one of the co-founders, and congratulations for that. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. You're in over 50 countries. You've got more than 5,000 clubs, 1 million active players per month, which are great stats, which obviously are credit to what you guys have done. Talk us through when and how Playtomic came into existence. It's obviously tennis as well as paddle.
Atomic was released in 2017. The thing is that it's not a disruptive idea. It wasn't a disruptive idea or a genius idea at that time. It was just about digitizing an industry. I mean, it was about paddle, well, racket sport lovers thinking about digitizing the industry that they love in both sides, right? The clubs, the supply of that industry needed a much more efficient way of doing things, and they needed the software, they need tech for doing that, and it was not delivered in a proper way at that time. I mean, you can found management softwares, but we thought there was room for a better tool. And on the other hand, which was even more important, I mean, paddle players were able to book a hotel room, cinema tickets, uh, I mean, a taxi from an app at that time, but they were not able to book a court um, using an app, a paddle court using an app. So that was logical. That wasn't disruptive. It was just a question of making it happening and executing a plan. I mean, yeah, as easy as that. With the vision, that's the important thing. With the vision, so the big picture was okay. We really want to facilitate the social joy of racket sports to absolutely everyone. I mean, it wasn't only facilitate the booking, it was about facilitating and promoting the social joy of racket sports to absolutely everyone. With this inclusivity aspect, right? I mean, everyone, to absolutely everyone, because it wasn't easy for the guys outside the paddle world to find someone to play with. So then we created this concept which is called perfect match, because match in the sense of paddle match, but also in the sense of matching people, right? The open matches feature from Playtomic, it's about um, I mean, four guys joining a match that they don't know each other, right? So that's basically the genesis of this company. And yeah, and 8 years ago, 8 years um, have passed, and we have 5,500 clubs, 1.2 million active users per month, whatever. But the vision is the same, and the idea that we had at that time about digitizing something that it wasn't digitized, it's already there.
So one of the challenges, or basically you have on the one hand the users like me who want to book my courts open, close, private, friendly, competitive, all this stuff. And then you have the clubs.
Mm.
So if you have a pure player club that only plays paddle, they it's sort of simple. At least it's reduced to your app. It integrates into their system. But you're going to be going to clubs that might be a golf course and a tennis club and a squash court.
Mm.
And I'm imagining you have to sort of mix or match or figure out how to solve the multiple demands that you have on you, both from the customers, the consumers, and then the clubs, because obviously from a club perspective, it's back end stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
integration and
right.
business issues. And how do you manage that? And do you see in your vision integrating all sports? Because you said social. Do you imagine going to a golf club and saying, you can reserve your tee times with Playtomic as well?
That's an interesting angle. The thing is, in tech, we've seen an evolution in which I mean the companies, tech companies, have been focused on what they do well. I mean, previously, 20 years ago, you found huge companies trying to build something that it covers everything. The scope was extremely broad. So it's like they were trying to develop customized features for absolutely everything. So at the end of the day, what you build doing that is a Frankenstein. I mean, so um, and Frankenstein in the sense of it's a mess. I mean, it's something that the user experience is hurt by that. I mean, it's really affected by that ambition to build every single feature. I mean, even the
Everything for everyone is not a good
eh,
strategy.
it's not a good strategy for tech. I mean, you have to focus on whatever you do well. And and so we thought about that, and we said, okay, we're racket sport lovers. There is a need for um, for digitalization of the industry. So we're going to deliver what the racket sport industry is demanding, especially paddle, and putting the social aspect, as I said, in the center of the scenario, and trying to promote and to facilitate the social joy of the sport, right? So if you want to do the same for 10 sports, we wouldn't have done the same job. It would have been worse. In the near future, I don't think we're going to cover more sports than the racket sports. We can talk about the pickleball adventure, whatever. We can talk about the transformation of tennis industry, of course. But I mean, we don't have any other sporting agenda? For sure not. Maybe in 5 years' time, 3 years, I don't know. I mean, you never know with these tech companies, because we try to grow so fast, and we try to evolve the business very quickly. But I mean, we have enough with this. We have enough. We have a life for doing this.
Of course you do. You have to take care of your kid too.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but no, but I mean, at the end of the day, what's interesting about Playtomic and of course paddle in general is that you generally aren't reduced to one club. Like you say in your report, you basically are multi-club because what you're looking for are a good set of players to play in a convenient location and time. And sometimes some clubs are overbooked. You can't have players, it's too inconvenient for them. And basically, I'm a slut for the good game. So
Yeah.
I don't need to play at one club. I'm prepared to drive an hour and a half for a great game.
Correct.
Still, after all these years, it's a crazy
Yeah.
thing. The one thing that really is always going to be a problem, and it's obviously not your fault or anything, but the rating system.
Yeah. Leveling.
Getting
Yeah.
that right. At the leveling, when I first signed up for Playtomic, I remember I was mortified. I think I put in all my, that answered all the questions, and I came up with something like a 2. A
Well,
2.
maybe is the right level for you.
Exactly. Ouch, ouch. But ojalá que no es. Pero, I was it was basically, the challenge is there's self valuation, and most times we self-evaluate ourselves better than we are. And so, and even in some countries, I would argue I'm a bona fide 4.5. And if I can really, I feel good about that. And when I go to Spain, I know I manage myself with 4.5s. But I think 4.5 in England is really not the same. The people consider themselves differently. So you have country differences.
These clusters, you have different clusters, right? It is true. At the end of the day, the mission in this case of the leveling system is, to facilitate that joy, right? So as long as your 4.5 is letting you playing good matches and having fun in London, it's good. Whatever the number is, don't get obsessed with the number itself. What is important is creating the perfect match, making that happening. It doesn't matter if the number is good or bad. It's true that the clusters are different. The level in Madrid is different than the level in Helsinki or Milan or Cape Town. This is completely true. But there we have the tech for helping us, right? We have a quite strong algorithm that, as you said, they ask you a certain number of questions for letting you know your initial level, but this level is not reliable until you've already played a decent number of matches. And then, depending on the scores of those matches, depending on who you play with, who are your opponents, the frequency that has happened that much, because if I play the same match 10 days, my level shouldn't be dropping or increased every day. You know what I mean? So these kind of considerations are incorporated in the algorithm. And also, very lately, we've already started to cross our previous algorithm, asking the other players, opponents, if they think that the level of the guy was appropriate or not. So we are putting that all together, and we're trying to improve step by step the leveling system that we have in place in the app, which I have to tell you, 200,000 open matches are arranged per month in Playtomic worldwide. And that's a lot. That's 800,000 people meeting up for playing padel that they don't know each other, and that's connects very well with our vision to facilitate the social joy of racket sports, right?
And I was just thinking a little extra add-on, as if you needed this, but why don't you add, like, after your 1 hour, 2 hour match, 30 minutes para la cervecita, because that also should be included by definition in all of our matches. That's just
exactly.
But right, let's talk. I'm glad to hear about those type of arrangements, and it must be with the algorithm a little bit like Google, the secret box, the black box of the rating. And then at some level, it's going to get so big, you're going to have troubles to really understand everything that's working, or the cross dynamics. If I played him 10 times already, how does that value differently than if I've only played you once? And if I play with the same partner all the time, actually that should count, because I know my partner, he's left-handed, I'm on the blah, 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 and we know each other, we know how the calls. Or if someone is always playing open, anyway, there's a lot of things that's got to go into it, Pablo. Let's talk for the last part about the new report, the Global Padel report that you did with PwC, with my friend Elena. I've had her on the show before to talk about last year's report. Let's just describe the process and challenges of putting this report together. Because I mean, it's so fast. Some countries are pretty serious, others are completely not. And it must be very difficult to try to figure out all of the different things and counting what are you counting, the federations or not, and so on.
It is. It is. There we have PricewaterhouseCoopers for doing that hard job, but at the end of the day, well, it's not rocket science. It's just about being accurate and trying to do the job properly. And then you realize that the different velocities of the different geographies and it's like the state of paddle today, right? Every year we release this saying, okay, let's see the reaction of everyone involved in the industry. It's it's a combination of this consultancy expertise from Elena's team and our knowledge about player behavior. And club behavior. I mean, because we've incorporated two blocks in the report about club management and player behavior, which really, I mean, adds a lot of value to the stakeholders. I mean, it's been really appreciated. I mean, we've received a lot of compliments from many people saying, okay, this was extremely useful about, for instance, average price per chord, uh, key components for running a paddle club, many things that the focus groups and surveys that we've invested in a lot of money and time and resources, sharing the insights with the industry. I think it's something that we really love to do. I mean, and it's like the state of paddle today. I mean, it's not only a forecast of the industry's continued growth, it's a compilation of club players and demographic data, right? It's a great exercise from my point of view.
When I had my cousin and our mutual friend Nale on
Wow.
my show to talk about the report, and we were discussing what was the biggest surprises uh, from it, and for him it was about the U.S. and certainly I thought about that. But for me, it was indeed those two pages, the one about the success of clubs. I mean, I just found it the most interesting, intriguing part that was unexpected for me. So I congratulate you that. Pablo, what was the biggest surprise for you? Did you find something in all the research and the work that was, oh, whoa, I didn't expect that? Or was it sort of all kind of what you imagined because you're kind of in the business as it is?
Well, over the year, the I would say the most impactful thing that has happened to the industry, and I've said that many times, is the growth in the UK. I mean that's something that I didn't expect. I was anticipating something in 2023, but what we've seen in 2024 is the confirmation of the search of real paddle and commercial clubs. I mean, not the kind of two paddle courts in the middle of a 20 tennis um, club from members and in a closed environment. I mean, that was I would say it was a big surprise. I didn't expect this level of clubs being open in the UK, and fortunately, you know better than I mean, the UK Playtomic is doing amazingly well, so it's good news for my company. But at the end of the day, for the whole industry, because the UK is the, I mean, it's a marketing tool for the whole industry. I mean, it's like if an initiative on sport is successful in the UK, you have the doors open everywhere. I mean, everywhere in the world.
Well,
You
it's
won't have a problem. Yeah. I mean, because it affects the US development, it also affects the Asia development. Um, it's very impressive. That in the positive way.
mm,
In the negative way, um, Germany. I mean, I love how it's been evolved in the last 3 months. But if we talk about a year plus, they're supposed to have grown in a faster way. But it is what it is. The licenses, permissions, and all the real estate blockers have been affecting it. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So what it was kind of negative or pessimistic, now I think it's gonna become a good surprise in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and what I was interesting in your report is that you actually describe why and how Germany isn't as fast as it could have been. Anyway, a shout out to my lovely friend Denise Hofer, the number one player in Germany, and hopefully pushing German paddle as I know she is, along with others like Jürgen and such.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
for me, the other surprise certainly was the way you used Google. 45% of all views were American. And when you only have 454 courts in 2023 growing fast, but that just seems like a ridiculous difference. And I suspect part of that's because Google is Google, or everybody has a VPN that says I'm actually in America.
Yes, yes. No, that's also very good because it's the confirmation of the appetite for paddle in the US, and and the appetite is, I mean, maybe for I, I mean for the size of the US, that number of impacts is just super small, but as long as we're talking about a huge audience, um, that will be transformed into business very quickly. Indeed, what we've seen so far is that 600 cores are going to be delivered in the US in the next, say, 12, 18 months, because we talk to every single core manufacturer and we know the numbers, the aggregated numbers. So at the end of the day, uh, the US is going to come. It's going to come. It is. The only uncertainty is, is it going to be huge as tennis in 10 years time, or is it going to be just a secondary sport? But whatever it will be, if we talk about Florida, Texas, and California, thinking about 1,000 plus clubs is not a crazy thing in 3 5 years time. For sure not. For sure not.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to Philadelphia and I play in Padelphia there, or I have a few friends who have personal private courts, and then I go to play in Paddle House. So yeah, and of course Natalie down in Paddle X. So lots of exciting things in the States. One thing for me, obviously, as a sort of a historian of paddle, I was definitely surprised not to see much more about Argentina. Tell us how that came about, because at the end of the day, paddle without Argentina is sort of like space without Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've received many claims about Argentina. Why we've not incorporated Argentina in the numbers? Basically, I can tell you that, speaking with uh, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Elena's team, it was pretty complicated to get solid data about the market. Um, I think they tried to find out a real number, but at the end of the day, they tried to cross databases, and they saw that there was not enough comfort on that numbers to be published and to be incorporated to the report. And and these guys, they know what to do, right? I mean, they are consultancy firm, and we decided to not include Argentina. But I mean, it's not something that we're not going to do. It's that this report and previous report was not incorporated in Argentina. But you are right. I mean, Argentina deserves to be included in that report, because if it is the Bible of the industry, Argentina is is something important in the sport, right?
Yeah, I mean, and of course, I'm happy to see Mexico in there because of the origin and Acapulco and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel that the Argentina, I mean, back in before you were born, hey, Pablo, there were 30,000 courts in Argentina. And so
Wow.
that was back in the days when it was just cement, 3 meter walls and all that. But obviously their situation is very different, and building new
Yeah.
courts and all that. So anyway, looking forward to having more Argentina in there. Let's just talk about one last thing, which is about paddle itself and why it's so successful. Well, the question that comes to me is there such a thing as the culture of paddle? Is there a specific culture of paddle that can be internationalized, or do you see paddle as being sort of cultivated differently in each country? You know, the Swedish version, the Argentinian version.
Well, I mean, if you think about the nature of the sport and the essence is, I mean, as we spoke, it's a combination of fun game. While you do sports, it's real sport. I mean, I wouldn't say it's extremely physical demanding, but it is a sport. So
It can be.
it can be, yeah, but not always. And the third component is the social aspect, right? The social aspect, it makes it real different because the combination of the three are what is, in my point of view, is what it makes it extremely successful. But those are the three components, and let's say that those three components they generate, and it's already studied by doctors. I mean, it generates a high level of um, endorphins, dopamine, etc. I mean, it's already tested higher than any other sport, higher than any other sport. I've seen reports about that. So if that is, I mean, if that is the secret of the sport, and that those are the components that makes it absolutely amazing. In Playtomic, at least we've seen the behavior of South Africans compared to the Mexicans, compared to the British guys, compared to the Italians, compared to the Finnish. I can tell you the behavior of the players is very similar. I mean, very similar, very similar. I mean, the sport is the same. The effects, the chemical effect that is generated in their bodies is the same. And the behavior play in paddle in this global community, I mean, is almost the same in any country. The UK is a great example. No one was expecting that the best country for open matches worldwide in Playtomic, in terms of percentage of open matches compared to regular bookings, was going to be the UK. And then we've seen the most social guys in the UK. Impressive, right? Impressive. And that
Unexpected.
allows us to say that there will be no blockers for the social component in any other market if we've already tested in South Africa, England, Finland, Belgium, the Netherlands, Mexico. We are everywhere. And we have volume, so it's not just an experiment. We're talking about 5,500 clubs, and so I can tell you, answering your question, I mean, the behavior of the player is very similar, very similar. What is true is that this global community, this thriving global community, is not wanting to copy the tennis dynamic. Closed clubs, membership schemes, uh, um, kind of aspirational behavior. No. They really want to play. They really want to have fun. They really want to do sports, and they really want to socialize. And that is already confirmed.
One of the observations I've made is it's possible for me in those open games to find myself with, you know, quote unquote, a janitor and a CEO of a big company. And there's no protocol around that. You know, the game is happening, and the idea, you know, I think of things that for me come more from the Hispanic origin, not just, you know, the happiness and so on, but for example, that you hug at the end of the match. You don't just shake hands, you hug at the end of a professional battle.
True.
And I would love to see that kind of element, which is for me more a recognition of paddle than the match itself. It's you know, this is like we're here for people who enjoyed paddle. That is the meta story. And even though I lost the match, we'll talk about points that I lost and won with joy, with some sort of alacrity. I mean, obviously, there are other people who are so competitive that they need to win every point. They scream, they break their rackets. Those people, I feel, don't have the full vibe of the paddle culture. And I suppose you see that everywhere, though.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and the inclusivity that we that we spoke before is perfectly reflected on what you said. I mean, you can find anyone playing with you or against you as an opponent from any kind of social layer, and that's the beauty of this sport as well. In also physical condition. I mean, you can play very competitive matches according to your level with people that physically they are not talented. Let's say that they are not in the best shape. It doesn't matter because as it has a kind of game component apart from the sports component. I mean, the tactic is so important. So people that they don't have a very good physical condition, they can be very competitive.
I have one last comment though, and I'm going to let you go after that, Pablo, because I'm sure you have a busy life. Is the issue of communication. It is my observation that proper, good paddle relies on good communication. If you don't have communication, I don't care how technically good you are, you will be eventually undone by your opponents. And from one country to another, it feels like I can come into any Spanish game and they're going to be talking, abajo, arriba, whatever, and
Yeah,
we have all the terms. But
yeah.
in many of the other more less mature countries, the idea of talking on the court, talking while I'm playing, it's almost sometimes considered like rude or what are you trying to tell me to do? Or so that's another point. What do you think?
Well, um, I mean, it's true that you can find people that they talk so much, but you need to communicate on the court. I mean, you're a coach. I mean, you need to, it's critical because sometimes you don't have the capacity to see what your opponents are doing, and your partner has to tell you. That's I mean, that's part of the sport itself. That's part of the tactics. Sometimes you can feel that your opponents are talking so much or whatever, but I feel that the this will be adopted by other countries as long as the sport is developed. Why? Because it's key. If I'm going to hit the ball and I don't know that the guy is on the net, my partner have to tell me. If I have to hit slow and I don't know that because I couldn't see the guy, I mean my partner has to inform me. So I think it's part of the game. But it's true that they are much more quiet in in certain markets than in others, right? If you play in the Nordics, it's absolutely true that they have a different, um, let's say, sound, right?
Indeed. Anyway, lots of things to enjoy. Pablo, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us how can anyone who doesn't know Playtomic, I mean, because most of the people who are listening, they know a little bit about paddle, but go find Playtomic. What's the best way to do that? What's the best way to follow you, Pablo Carro, or get in touch with you? And also, how can people download the report?
Okay, so the most important thing is, I mean, to download the largest community, the largest player and clubs community app. You have to find it in Apple Store or Google Play. Easy, easy. It's an app. It's an app, so you can find it very quickly. I think it's been downloaded 5 million times, so I don't think it's going to be a problem finding it. For the report specifically, you can Google it and you'll find the way to download it. The comprehensive report about the industry. And
I'll
myself, I
I'll, I'll
think,
put I'll put a link into the show anyway as well.
great. Thanks for that. And I mean, the only, let's say, social network that I have apart from my profile in Playtomic, it's LinkedIn. So if you want to find me, I'll be there. I'm trying to become much more active because I'm not so expert on that matter, but I'm trying to improve. I'm
Another
doing my best.
we always have to improve, Pablo, every
Yes,
time. And that's
yes,
what life's about, is the enjoyment of understanding our imperfections, teaching our children such things, and keeping a smile on the face. Pablo, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
that's it. Thanks for inviting me. Extremely interesting conversation, and I mean, I like this. I mean, I like to talk about our sport in this way. I love it. Thank you very much.
It's a passion and a profession.
Exactly.